Thanks for coming out for our program. I'm Leanne Smith. I've been with St. Francis for 10 years. I am the Director of Residential Services and Public Relations for St. Francis and a few other things. So part of my job here is to help and work with Kelly Hartzell to plan these types of presentations that we invite people in from the community. We want you to learn about the services that we can offer you here at St. Francis and things that you can do inpatient, things you can do outpatient, and things just to help you in life in general. So today we're focusing on Parkinson's disease and a kind of intensive therapy program called Big and Loud. I'm going to introduce those presenters here in a second, but just want to also let you know that we do typically almost every month or couple months offer educational programs here that we open to the public. So just be watching the newspaper, watch our Facebook page. We do have something coming up in August. We'll have another presentation in September with the Ohio insurance people right before that open enrollment time. So if you want to learn about the different types of insurances that are out there with Medicare and prescription plans and all that really confusing stuff, that'll be happening later in September. So again, just kind of watch. We do have a Facebook page, St. Francis Senior Ministries. We have a website, and we always advertise in the paper. So again, we thank you for coming out today. I'd like to introduce Tina Juarez and Mike Fabrizio, and I'll let them give their own introductions of their positions with Fabrizio Rehabilitation, and thanks to you guys too.
Thank you. Well, my name is Tina Juarez. Like she said, I work for Fabrizio's on the campus of St. Francis. We work in a brand new therapy department. So for those of you that haven't seen it yet, we will provide tours afterwards if you'd like to come and see it. We started 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago now. We started in the basement, and then we got to move the therapy department upstairs, and now we have this wonderful space. And part of having that renovation, part of that came with a grant to go to the Big and Loud training that we're going to talk to you about today. So that's how we got funded to do this. This is a unique program that helps people with the physical, occupational, and speech components of the disease that they have. So I'm going to introduce the big part, which is the physical and occupational. Michael Fabrizio is going to give you some instruction on that, and then I'll be back to talk about the loud component. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As she said, my name is Mike Fabrizio. I'm an occupational therapist. Today we're going to talk about BIG. Basically, the treatment for Parkinson's disease has typically been with drugs and sometimes a little bit of therapy. When I say a little bit of therapy, it's been prescribed by the physician to do some exercise. That's been typically the treatment, and as well as the drug therapy, as an adjunct with the drug therapy. What they have found through the research with Big and Loud is that doing large movements and intensive exercise actually helps with Parkinson's disease. It helps slow the progression. As most of you folks that have Parkinson's disease know, it is a progressive disease. The biggest thing that I took away from the certification was seeing the difference in the people after just having them do the exercises one time. Okay. One of the biggest difference in the exercise program is the expectation on the patient and the intensity of the exercises. This is a very intensive program. It is a 4-week program. Each therapy session is an hour. We instruct the patient on daily exercises to be performed daily by the patient every day of the week. The other component to BIG that I really found fascinating was that exercise is medicine. You would not take your Parkinson's medicine on a day that you felt bad. How many of you folks would skip your Parkinson's medicine if you felt bad? Anybody?
I don't skip when I feel good.
True. So that's the importance of exercise. The exercise is just as important to do on a daily basis. The next biggest thing was how the impact of a therapist. We are used to instructing patients. And with this form of treatment, you're modeling behavior. In other words, if I want you to do a behavior or a movement pattern, I will show you, and I want you to do it like me. Okay? Rather than to tell you, I want you to move your arms up and down 10 times. A lot of times with Parkinson's disease, the process from here to the motor planning is impaired. In other words, if you're taking a step, a Parkinson's step looks like this. Very small, very, very narrow. Whereas we want to teach big, more stability. Okay? So that's, yes.
I went through both these therapies with Bridge, and they do help. Believe me, they definitely help.
Oh, the results are remarkable with the effort that people put in. I think that's the other key is for the patient is figuring is what we call calibration, and that is relearning how to do everyday things. In other words, to get into a chair, a Parkinson's patient may shuffle in a tight spot and kind of sit down, where we would teach them bigger steps, big arms, and sit. Over-exaggerate, and then shape that behavior and calibrate it till it looks normal. So it's reshaping the way that you think and the way that you do things, and tying in daily tasks as well as the exercises. That is probably the biggest change and the biggest difference in the big program is the patient involvement and the intensity that we provide. So those are the biggest things that we do as therapists. We are models. The other component is as we progress through the therapy, we add a degree of difficulty. So we make the treatment more challenging, and we add a cognitive component because we also know that Parkinson's has some challenges with cognitive issues. So we add a component to the exercise to challenge the patient. I think in the past, as a therapist, we gave exercises and we just expected the patient to kind of do them and do their best to keep them as flexible as possible. With this program, it's about challenging the patient, getting them to model and shape their behavior to better their movement patterns, and it worked. Those are the big components that we utilize in this program. Any questions so far?
You said it was 4 weeks for an hour. Is it every day, 4 weeks?
Yes. It is 4 days, 4 consecutive days, 4 hours of individual therapy. The first part of the session is learning and doing the maximal daily exercises. The next part of the treatment session is what we call a functional link. So in other words, it's something that you would do, a task that the patient is having difficulty with. And then the other component is actually walking big. So relearning the walking component. So that's kind of what the therapy looks like. And typically, we do it under the physician's order so that it is reimbursed by either private insurance or Medicare. So
Do you do yours at your office or,
we do it here at St. Francis,
okay?
and
I had mine done at the house.
Do you have to be a patient of St. Francis to do it?
that's a good question. Actually, we do it here we can do it kind of either way. It depends on the needs of the patient. Typically, it's done as an outpatient. So you can be an outpatient of St. Francis and come to St. Francis to have the treatment done.
We just need a doctor's order.
We just need the doctor's order for physical or occupational therapy, and typically both for the big portion.
Do these treatments, you're saying that with the therapy and stuff, does it slow the process down? Does it have the connective to the brain? That
Yes.
it's making your brain actually,
Yes, it actually works on the principle of neuroplasticity, which means, in other words, it's reforming the way that your brain operates and learning motor patterns. They have actually, through the company LSVT, I'm not very good with initials, they actually have research that shows that it is slowing the progression of the disease down and improving function.
So after you go through the program for 4 weeks, then is that something they're supposed to continue doing on their own then every
Yep.
day?
Yes,
Okay.
because again, exercise is medicine, and it's just as important as your medicine. So those daily exercises, at the end of 4 weeks, you will continue those forever and ever and ever.
And is someone allowed to go with her so that, like, if my mom would do it, and if someone go with her, so we know
Absolutely.
exactly what those exercises are too?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, we train, I mean, that's a good question, actually, great question. Yeah, we will train caregivers, staff, or anybody that would be doing the exercises with somebody to perform the exercise. Okay, I guess the other component that I can talk about too is the nice thing about these exercises, there are 2 phases. There are ones that are adapted, in other words, that you can do seated if you're unable to stand, to do them standing. And then there's also the standing version of the exercises. So somebody that's even immobile for long periods of time.
Does it affect people? For example, my speech might be affected, or my vision, or my equilibrium that I couldn't control. Is that pretty basic with everyone then that gets Parkinson's?
Yes, ma'am. In some form, it affects all those components. And like I said, it's usually something that is progressively worse as time goes on. Good. I'm gonna let Tina talk about the loud component.
All right, thank you. Well, first I'm going to give you a little bit about Parkinson's that you probably already know, but this is from the speech perspective. I am the rehab director here, but I'm also a speech therapist. I've been a speech therapist for 15 years. And I've always been a speech therapist in this setting. I love this setting. So I love working with people of this age, and this is my favorite thing. So there are about 6 million people in the world with Parkinson's, and about 89% of those people, this goes to the question you just asked, have a speech or voice problem that goes along with it. And only about 4% receive treatment for that. So it is an area where it is underutilized, the speech component of that. And because you have Parkinson's, and he, like Michael talked about it being a degenerative disease, treatment's not going to cure it. But what it's going to do is improve your quality of life and help you maintain that independence for as long as possible. So that's the goal. The goal isn't to make you perfect. The goal is to get you so you can be functional as long as possible. Some of the characteristics, if you have a speech component or a speech problem, are, and you may recognize some of these, are decreased loudness, monotone, hoarse voice quality, imprecise articulation. That's a big word for kind of mumbling. The words are coming out like this instead of coming out like this, okay? Can't kind of understand them. And then vocal tremors, that shaky voice that you hear. And for some people looking back, the voice symptoms were the first symptoms that they remember of Parkinson's. And then look back. Does that make sense? Okay. So what the loud is, as opposed to the big, you're going to see a lot of things that'll be similar to what Michael spoke about. It is a speech treatment for not only Parkinson's, but they've also used it for some patients with stroke, MS, and CP as well. So the study has been going on for 20 years, and the data does show increase in loudness, intonation, and intonation is what makes you not monotone like this. Intonation is the ups and downs as we speak, and then also your vocal quality. That's the hoarseness that we were talking about, and also that shakiness. Those are the things. And then with doing this with maintenance afterwards, the studies have shown up to 2 years that you have those same kind of results as long as you keep doing your exercises. Just like Michael said, if you're going to take your medicine, you're going to take your exercises to maintain that. So how that is done is 16 sessions, just like Michael, 1 month, very intense, 16 sessions. Same thing, 4 times in a week, all right in a row, and all hour-long sessions. And you're tired at the end of this. I can talk for an hour, but I've been doing this for 15 years. But a lot of people, that's hard to do. Not only that, but you have Parkinson's on top of it. So it's a long session and it's hard. So people that are caregivers, it doesn't seem like, oh, I'm just going to speech therapy for an hour. But they're very exhausted after coming out of that. Also, what we're doing is working on your loudness by stimulating the muscles in your larynx, which is a big word for voice box, and your speech, working on the systems of your speech as well. And the biggest component, like Michael was talking about, how he was taking really big steps, we're doing really loud things, and it makes people nervous. They think that they're too loud. So we have to work on their sensory awareness and teaching them that their voice is too soft and convincing them. We have a computer program where you can kind of actually see things on the screen, and it makes it a little more visual for you, because if you're only listening to yourself, you're used to your own voice. So you don't realize how soft you are, or when you're mumbling how it's not coming out quite right. So that gives you a little bit, and it's my job then to help convince you to speak louder. It's not screaming at people, but if you don't think you're talking too loud, you're not talking loud enough. So in teaching you that that's normal. So this is most effective with people in the early and middle stages, but it can be done with anybody as long as they can kind of follow along with the program. And we're targeting healthy loudness as opposed to yelling. I just spoke about that. But teaching what healthy loudness is. The mode is intense and high effort. So the number of sessions is intense. Each session is intense. We're working on a lot of repetitions. That's a lot of over and over and do it again and do it again and do it again all in a row, which seems monotonous and annoying, but there's a reason, and it was what Michael was talking about with the neuroplasticity. We're trying to get that brain to make a new way to do things. And you do that by repetition, repetition, repetition. A lot of force and resistance, a lot of emphasis placed on accuracy, like, oh, that wasn't right, I'm going to model it for you again like this. And then, like I talked about, there is a lot of fatigue that goes with this. So the calibration is what we talked about, like getting your brain to do those internal cues, getting you over the fact that, the first couple sessions you're like, she is nuts, I am too loud. And getting to the point where at the end you're like, okay, maybe I'm too loud. And getting to the point where I've got this and it makes sense to me. But we got to get your brain to know that. So when you're out and about and you're not sitting with me and I'm not, every day you're looking at me and you're like, Dan Brown eyes are looking at me. So then, when you get that cue, you don't have that cue from me, you cue yourself then at the end when you need to do some of your things to get yourself louder. Does that make sense? Okay, great. And then some of the unexpected outcomes that come of this aren't unexpected to me because I'm a speech therapist, but they are to other people, is it also helps people with swallowing issues, and that's a big deal for people with Parkinson's. The reason is we're working on the same muscles. I do more than half of my treatment as a speech therapist on people with swallowing problems. And they threw that in speech therapy's hands a million years ago because we work with the same muscles. So if you're working on your muscles for speaking, you're also working on your muscles for swallowing. So that's kind of nice. So what we do, as opposed to what Michael does, is the same 30-minute daily tasks. But I've got a computer and a microphone, and we do sustained ahs. You do ah for as long as you can, and we do at least 15 of those. And then we do high and low ahs. You go ah, and you watch the computer. You do that for at least 15 of those. It doesn't seem like a lot of work, but it really is kind of a lot. And then we have functional phrases, certain things that are set up for you, that are more geared toward you, that we say, and we do them 50 times. That doesn't change. Over all 4 weeks, over all 4 sessions in the week, that's going to stay exactly the same. That's kind of part of your homework too, is that's what you do every time. The last half an hour of the session is something that is hierarchical. So it starts a little easier, and then week 2 gets a little more and a little more and a little more. So the first week, we're going to work on words and phrases. They're short and they're simple. We go to sentences, we go to reading, and the last week is conversation, and it gets to be the kind of the most difficult. So, and like I said, a big component of this is there is homework. On the days you don't have therapy, there's a lot of homework. On the days you do have therapy, there's a little homework. When you're done with this and it works great, there's homework to go. So just making sure you know that. I have a quote, and then I'll take questions after this. Daniel Webster says, "If my possessions were taken away from me with one exception, I would choose to keep the power of communication, for by it I would soon regain all the rest." So that's why I feel communication is important. Any questions about the loud portion of this?
Does it go on the same time they do the physical part of it?
That's a good question. It depends. It would depend on the patient because theirs is also very taxing. Depending on the patient, they may want to choose one and then do the other because that would be 2 hours a day and that would be super intense. So if you have somebody in early stages, maybe, but if it's a little beyond that, I would probably split them up. Good question.
Does the doctor have to order speech therapy?
Same thing.
Exactly like them. What you do is you ask for an order for physical, occupational, or speech therapy. You're a neurologist. Most of them probably know about this. If they don't, we can always send them something, but the neurologist will give an order for this. Or also your house doctor or your regular doctor would give an order for this as well. To come to St. Francis, you would just need to call us up and say, hey, I want to come in for outpatient. I have an order for physical therapy. An order is like a prescription. You know, like they write it on a script pad for those that don't know. And you bring that in, and we would check it to make sure everything's good with the insurance, and then we would get you set up. You know, and kind of start the plan. Can't start in the middle of the week or anything, so we would start a plan so you knew what was coming for the whole month. Any other questions?
I got an idea.
What?
How about if I take a volunteer and we can go through some of the big,
That would be so fun. Michael would like to volunteer.
You're gonna do it?
Would you like to try? We would love that. I'm not going to make somebody do the speech part. Nobody likes to go, wait a minute.
When you do the speech program, I suggest you do it in the spring or the fall. When
Okay.
you don't have to have your windows open so your neighbors can't. You go,
You do, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a
Yes.
lot, yeah. Well, luckily I have an office door that closes, so we would be pretty protected in my office, so that's good. Can everybody see if you can't see, Michael, and what's your name? And Miss Kay, if you want to kind of like get up and move around, you're welcome to.
okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is just demonstrate what I'd like you to do, okay? So, first thing is we're gonna get out in big posture. Okay? Big hands, we're gonna reach down to the floor, up, and hold out here for 10 seconds. Big hands out, big hands out, here we go, good. Hold like that for 10 seconds. Good. And then we're gonna come down and, make a big bow. Make a big bow.
Everything big and loud.
Good. So we're gonna do again. Big hands, down, stretch up, and out. And hold there for 10 seconds. Beautiful. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and finish big. Very good. Another one just like that, okay? Big hands, down, up, and out. And hold for 10 seconds. Good. 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and finish big. Good. One more. Here we go. Good. Up. Good. And out and hold. Good. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and finish big. Okay. We're going to try one more exercise, okay? We're going to start with a big hand out here. Okay, we're going to swoop across, hold it up, and point your, put this hand out here. We're going to turn this one. Good, and hold that one, just like this is a harder one. Count to 10. Look over your fingertips. There you go. Good. Count. And finish big. Bring that, and, bring back here. Bring back here and finish big. Really bring that leg back. Let's try again. Ready? Big hand out. Okay, we're going to go this way. Big hand out. Swing it across. Palm up. Yeah, there you go. And kick this leg out. You're at it, girl. Way out there. Good. Stretch. Hold for a 10 count. What I'm doing is just trying to shape her movement. Really give me good effort. And finish big. There you go.
Yeah.
Good. Another one just like that. Last one. Here we go. Ready? Nope. Start big hand out here. There we go. Swing, palm up. Good. Just like me. Kick that leg back. There you go. Good. Hold. Smile. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and finish big. Good.
That's great.
Very good. That's kind of a sample of some of the exercises that we do, and that's part of their daily routine. Okay? Do we want to? I'll tell you what. I'll do one standing one. How's that sound? You up for a standing one? Okay. This is one of my favorites. Okay? Do just like I do. We're going to go out, big hands, and finish big. There we go. And finish big. Good. Step back. There you go. Let's try it again, just like me. Big hands, and finish big. That's okay. Just big step back and really stomp that foot, okay? Just like me. Big hands. Good. And back, big. Yeah, we don't have
I
to
won't
count.
let you.
We don't have to hold. So
I
here we
won't
go.
let you fall, okay?
Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
Big hands and back. Good. Much better. Ready? One more time. Good. And back. Good. Okay, let's try the other leg. So we're going to do
You
the
didn't know
same
what you were
thing.
getting into, did you?
Oh, I didn't know this.
Here we go. She's doing fine. Ready? Big hands. Good. And finish big. Bring this leg back. There you go. But I want you to start in a bigger posture. Get way out here. Get real big. How big does that feel?
That's so big.
That feels real big. Good. Okay. So you ready? Big hands. Come out.
I
Okay.
can't do it.
Yes, you can. Ready?
Okay. There you go.
There you go. Good.
Got it.
Big hands. Good. And step back. Good. Here we go. One last try. Big step. Good. It's all right. And back. Good.
Good.
focus, and the biggest thing is not it's not the quality of the movement, it's actually trying to focus on getting bigger.
So it's not
And-
necessarily necessary that you
And it's not
share either,
necessarily
like,
that she's perfect.
mm,
We do wanna go do one
try to
leg then
do
the other,
both.
but we're not after perfect, because if I start critiquing every little motion, most people are gonna get anxious and nervous, and their emotions are gonna festinate a little bit more. So it's about better and bigger and repetition and staying bigger and cueing. You gotta be bigger. You gotta be big. We understand bigger.
I
Okay?
think it was hard, it would definitely have been hard for you guys to see in the back, but when she was doing the seated exercises, he would have her do 4 of them. And the difference between the first one and the fourth one was remarkable, that she could get her leg out where he wanted it, she could get her arm where he wanted it with
Yes,
no
and
problem. Like
that's
between
part
1,
of-
2, 3, and 4 was a huge change.
Yes, and that's part of the shaping that we're, as the therapist, we're helping her encode that motion and help her to get to that motion. And like I said, we're not looking at perfection. We're looking at just repetitive motion and trying to also repeat that motion, because like Tina said, she got better with the repetition. We don't expect you that you can do these very well in the beginning, and it takes a lot of effort. But then by the end, I've had a couple patients go through it already, and by the end, it moves along pretty quickly. And they're amazed that because like she was like, what? You're gonna make me do what? But by the end, we add challenges and we add different things to it, and it actually is remarkable, the results that happen.
It's okay if it made you tired, because I think when Michael does this on day 1, he goes home and takes a nap.
I was gonna say, you're probably pretty tired too.
I was gonna say, it's very intense. That's the other thing. That's probably the one thing I can stress. It's very, very intensive. And that's probably the biggest change for Parkinson's people. Again, the exercises have typically been kind of stretch and move and do a few things. And that's the physicians don't expect a whole lot. The other key is really when your medicine is working. That is another key, is being on top of the medicine, taking it like it's supposed to be, and your medicine is in pretty good range. So to control your symptoms.